going to poke around the let's see, pop out chat. There we go. For those of you on YouTube, welcome. LinkedIn is a little problematic with these things. In the normal course of action, Pedro would be giving me his 5-minute speech about the markets, and I would be talking, and I would be able to do things in the background right now. But give me 1 second here. We'll change up the discussion here, the order of discussions a little bit. There we are. Oh, we have the first LinkedIn post from our friend and guest today, Anton Golub. Anton, that was the first post. And welcome, everybody. Pedro, if you're out there listening, I'm going to juggle the show a little bit here. Let's see if we can get the old comments up and running here. There we go. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, everyone. We got the comments going. Thank you to everybody that's watching. Let me just make sure that all that is going well. Like I said, usually we got Pedro going on right now, but all right, ladies and gentlemen. Like I said, on the agenda for today, like we always do, is talking about the markets. But we're gonna skip talking about the markets right now, and in a second we're gonna bring on our guest, Anton Golub. But first, as I like to do, I like to preface the discussion of the day with a little background. As many of you know, I've met Anton previously and had him on the show talking about kind of the international markets and because of the craziness in the U.S. regulatory system going on regarding digital assets right now. I had him on the show talking about that and about his experience opening companies and operating in Europe versus the U.S. versus the opening markets in Dubai, Singapore, and Hong Kong and things like that. It was a good discussion. What I didn't know at the time was that he also had a little bit more in his mind going on about the international nature of things and how the regulation in the U.S. is strangling things, and how a certain topic, that of the distributed asset organization, or distributed asset organization, otherwise known as a DAO, had legal gray areas around the world. In the U.S., it's famously very gray, except with the federal government, and also with I think it's 5 states. They're starting to set some rules for them. But he had a little plan in the back of his head, which we're going to talk about here in the show in a little bit. No, sorry, I thought I had our friend Pedro coming on here, but nope. Pedro, I know you're there somewhere. Just come on when you can, and we'll talk later after the interview. Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. Let me get this back here. There we are. All right, so like I said, I'm prefacing the interview coming up. One of the things that we'll be talking about is real world asset trading. Everybody knows it because it's when everyone's talking about, hey, there's unlocked potential and unlocked and there's money that's tied up in assets that you can't get at easily. Good examples is a car collection. A good example is your house. A good example is your a community's, I don't know. There's so many. Think of anything with value. That value can be unlocked and shared with people via, in the stock market, they call it via shares. In the digital asset world, we call it by changing things to having a token associated with a portion of its value. And so the real world asset kind of, not craze, but the concept is really kind of taken over because people are trying to figure out how to do it. Obviously, we can trade things in digital assets. We can say, look, this share of this coffee cup, I'm going to have 100 tokens and 100 coffee cups, and whoever owns those 100 tokens owns 100 of those coffee cups. Or translate that to houses or condominiums or retirement community spaces or plots in a cemetery. And we can trade those. But many of those things have what's called legal title to them. Whether it's a formal title like your house and a deed or things like that, or whether it's ownership established in law at the jurisdiction that you're in or that the asset is in. And so you can tokenize the shares of your house and raise money from it, but the city that your house is in still says, no, Mr. Striking still owns that house. We don't care who you sold it to. Nobody came in and registered their deed. So, and when they do, we want our transfer tax and all of that goes along with it. So we know that there's a lot of legal problems in it, and that's why we have. I shouldn't say that's why. So we have on two aspects. We have legal problems with the legalities of the exchange in which you exchange things. If you do it one-to-one, no big deal. That's a private sale. But if you put them out there in exchange or a trading room or things like that, the SEC is ruling that as an exchange. And they just settled. The SEC, they charged and settled in the same day. Kind of weird. RSE Markets for operating unregistered security exchange. What RSE did is they basically operated an unregistered exchange by maintaining and providing a marketplace and facilities that brought together purchasers and sellers of securities, specifically equity interests in collectible assets such as valuable cars and watches. In essence, taking real-world assets and setting up a market to exchange a tokenized ownership of it. And the SEC said, no, that's securities trading. So, what do we do? Well, what we do is we set up an organization in a jurisdiction in which it's legal, and so then we set that playing field, which is good. And then we need the other thing. We need the other half. We need real-world securities to trade, or real-world assets to trade. And so you have to have projects, or you need to have people, you need to have companies that are behind setting that up. And setting those up legally, so then they can legally be traded on the exchange that you set up or a DAO. And then you have a fully compliant and legal system to do it, one which has proper legal representation, and wherever it needs to, it pays its taxes. Because if you don't pay your taxes, what's happening? The government will rug pull you right into the jail. Anyway, that's my talk about that, and I'm gonna. Like I said, my schedule's a little out of sorts because of Pedro got back to me and said that he was traveling, or he had traveled, but he's setting up his streaming rig, and unfortunately it wasn't running. So we're going to talk right before we bring Anton on here. We're going to talk a little bit about this little box over my shoulder here. This little box over my shoulder here is Auditchain. Auditchain is the sponsor of what I say is all the original programming here on DYOR Live, or on the DYOR Media channel, especially DYOR Live and my show, Rugged, Ruined, and Wrecked. And I always want to thank him for that, for doing that. But of course, I got to tell you what it is. And Auditchain is in the business of, in essence, of auditing and validating in 1 minute here, I can't tell you everything about it, but validating filings by public companies or other companies that have to put out their financials publicly, and checking them against for errors, errors and omissions, to see if it's right, check if the balance sheet balances, and all types of things as part of their Pacioli validating node. But if you give me a second here to play this commercial about it, you'll learn how even the top 100 companies in the United States, that a whole bunch of them are not compliant in their filings, and these are filings that and financial numbers that were put out that the errors were missed by the audit committees, the CFOs, and their auditors who signed off that everything was right. And in 5 minutes with Auditchain, figured out everything was wrong. So let's hear from me about Auditchain.
Most of you know that crypto exchanges have been taking a beating about transparency, and many groups out there are trying to solve that. But Auditchain has already done that. Auditchain's protocols and network of validators can mathematically prove that a company's entire financial state, not just proof of reserves, but a proof of state, and whether or not that company is providing accurate reporting and information to the respective government regulators and to the public. Seriously, you and I can check crypto companies and traditional companies' financial reports for transparency and accuracy using a logic and reasoning engine called Pacioli that records its output where? On the blockchain. Seriously, ladies and gentlemen, blockchain technology is now able to be used to check on traditional companies. Behind me is a list of companies that comprise the S&P 500, S&P 100. In essence, the largest US companies by size. More than one quarter, 29 out of 100, have problems with their reports. Remember, accounting and other corporate systems are garbage in and garbage out. So if there are problems with the data out for these companies, in red here, what does that mean? That's right, ladies and gentlemen. There are problems with the data going in. And this was figured out not by accounting or auditing firms and fleets of consultants. This was compiled and reported on by Auditchain's Pacioli validating nodes and took only 5 minutes. It's revolutionary and it's a disruptor technology. Auditchain. Most of you know that crypto exchanges have been taking a beating about
All right, ladies, you don't want to hear that twice. Thank you to Jason Myers of Auditchain for having me, for sponsoring DYOR Live and DYOR Media. Thank you very much. And like I said earlier, our guest today is none other than Anton Golub, who I've been talking about the past few minutes. And let's see if we can bring him up here and have the audio work at the same time. Anton, how you doing here today?
I'm doing very good. Great to see you again, Tom. Thank you very much for inviting me kindly, and also for what I understand, giving me a bit more extra airtime.
Yeah.
And always, I'll try to put that to good use. And I think, given the news that we received yesterday and the kind of what's happening in the crypto industry, I'm referring to the Ripple case, I think we'll have a lot of exciting discussions today. So thank you very much for welcoming me.
You're welcome. You're welcome, Anton. Before we get into your new venture and all that, let's spend 2 minutes here talking about the XRP case. I didn't expect it to come. The legal world was saying, hey, it's getting close, but I'm not in the legal world. But I clearly was taken aback by it when I saw a chart with 100% gain. Unfortunately, a chart that I was not invested in at the time. But it was good news yesterday for the market. As I said in my intro, good and bad for Ripple. But what's your take on the, as someone who has operated in an exchange and before, what is your opinion of the SEC ruling?
Yeah. So first, really to make a very strong statement that yesterday was a historic day for the crypto industry. So really to say it out blunt like that, in a sense that one of the most well-known and the biggest crypto projects out there literally went out and challenged the US regulator how they see financial securities and how they classify tokens and financial securities. So really just kind of to make a very strong statement around that. Now, in terms of the ruling, I mean, it's a partial victory for anyone who kind of took a close look at the verdict. And I did read through all the documents. basically what happened on one side, the court ruled in the favor of Ripple, saying the token itself, it's not a security, which I think is the most important ruling. If you sell the token on a crypto exchange or the secondary market to the traders who are trading there, that's not a security. And also if you pay for the staff, the team, the advisors with your token, again, that is not security. So that's very positive, and I think this is what everybody was focusing on. But kind of what not a lot of people said is that also there was not one thing that was not positive in this case is namely that the court ruled that actually selling the token to institutional investors prior when you have anything that is actually selling a security. And likewise, they completely dismissed the claim by Ripple that somehow they were not aware they had to register their issuance
right.
of the token. So basically the issuance was illegal. So it's a partial victory, but really, let's say, a big thank you to Ripple. And why can we say thank you to them is because Ripple actually has the firepower. They have the money, to be very blunt, to challenge the US regulator. Most crypto projects don't. So we are very glad to see that they took a heavy burden in this on this occasion and made a big but a partial victory for the whole.
Yeah, I'll say that even though, as you said, it was just a partial victory, that it's big, especially since a small part of the market in crypto is people like Ripple selling their tokens to institutions. And we all know the big part of the market is the volume in the exchanges and the market makers that go behind that. So good news for Ripple. However, knowing the U.S. government and our court system well, this is only step one of the ruling. The SEC, I'm sure, will appeal it. And they will claim, the SEC for sure is going to claim that everyone's going to be harmed by it and ask for a temporary injunction to stop the lower court ruling. Who knows? That gets into magic land then when whether that's going to happen or not. So it will still be a number of years before the case is finally settled. Because as you said, XRP has the firepower to keep the case going and not to settle, and they're not going to. So Gary Gensler and crew is going to have to devote a lot of their budget to this. And now that XRP has this little win, other companies are not going to be quick to settle. And when other companies settle, that money the SEC gets. And unlike other U.S. government agencies, the SEC's money that they get in fines, they get to keep and use as their budget. The CFTC doesn't get to do that. They have to go to Congress and get their money to operate, but the SEC can take their money, put it in their pocket, and then prosecute people with it. So hopefully this case will come to fruition soon by the SEC capitulating and calling it off. But other than that, like in summary, a good win for XRP, a good win for crypto, and a good win for a little bit of legal structure. So speaking of legal structure, let's talk about real-world asset trading and what you want to do with SwissAssetDAO. And I want to tell everyone that I am helping out SwissAssetDAO behind the scenes for it to get it up and running, but I am not telling anybody to buy any tokens or anything like that. Like I said, not financial advice. We're talking about how to operate companies legally here. So, Anton, tell us what and how is going on with SwissAssetDAO.
Awesome. Yeah, so thank you very much for supporting SwissAssetDAO in the early days as it's born. It's still a young baby. And to just give a bit of context for the people listening and watching this. So SwissAssetDAO is an initiative originally conceived by a good friend of mine, Michael Ray, who is a pioneer in the crypto industry in Switzerland and pioneer within the niche of the crypto industry within the context of real-world assets. And kind of to explain in a nutshell what SwissAssetDAO as an initiative is that when you operate a DAO or when you launch a DAO, which is an idea how to govern a company in line with the values of decentralization, in a sense that every token holder is a stakeholder in a DAO. What you quickly discover actually that even though this is an amazing vision and it goes in line with the values of decentralization, as soon as you need to touch the real world and use the service providers and operate within the context of the real world, you encounter troubles. In a sense that literally very few people understand what even a DAO is, what is its legal structure, How do we set it up as an entity? Also, what kind of then rights and protections and liabilities you have actually as an entity that represents the DAO. And we discovered very quickly that actually this is a common problem in the industry. We have already very, very important decentralized autonomous organizations, DAOs in the industry. I think the most well-known one is MakerDAO, which I'm sure everybody in the crypto industry knows about. But what you see is DAO. Massive. I mean, they're like. They're also an important stakeholder also in the context of real-world assets and investments into real-world assets. But basically, we have a lot of these amazing entities running the lines with the values of decentralization. There's going to be more of them. They're going to be a bigger, more important stakeholders. Having said that, when you touch the real world with the DAO, you're all confused, you have problems, and nobody knows what to do with you. So this is actually what SwissAssetDAO is trying to resolve, is how can a DAO interact with the real world, but our exclusive focus is on DAOs that want to operate and invest into real world assets.
So you're going through the process putting together the DAO. And when it exists, say in 10 minutes, all of a sudden everything was great, and you said, "All right, we're ready to go, finished, starting." Where do the assets that are going to be traded come from?
So when we talk about the real world assets, you can actually kind of see that there's a possibility of flows of assets between the real world and the crypto world, or between the crypto world and the real world. So kind of it can go both ways. What we really see and think actually that in the short term, the big opportunity in the future is for the crypto assets to get deployed and end up in the real world. To give you an example, like what MakerDAO has done as one of the biggest DAOs out there, is they have actually taken the assets that they have as collateral for their own stablecoin called DAI, and actually they have deployed it in the real world by purchasing US treasuries. So this is a flow from the crypto world going into the real world. And this is actually kind of that interaction, the challenge that we spoke about, that when you want to touch the real world as a DAO or as a crypto entity, you have challenges. So we really see in the short term, obviously, I think long term, everything will move on the digital side. But at the moment, the challenge is actually how do you interact back with the real world. So we see the assets, the crypto assets, liquidity, seeking opportunities in the real world.
So in the jurisdiction you're doing this in is obviously your home jurisdiction of Switzerland here. What was there a recent change in Swiss law, or did they figure out that some old laws worked in order to allow DAOs to operate legally?
Yeah, so Switzerland is the most amazing place, the most amazing jurisdiction to operate a crypto company, and I'm by no means biased when it comes to that. So no. But just to say, so Switzerland has a tradition of actually being very open and welcoming for a crypto company and cryptos in general. Started a long time ago, way back in 2014, where they classified very clearly Bitcoin and some other cryptos in 2015 as payment instruments with clearly defined in how you do KYC, AML, and gave clarity for everyone else who wants to get involved in that. Now, Switzerland did change even laws to accommodate the development of digital asset industry, namely the so-called DLT Act. But this particular act didn't actually address the challenges or the opportunities within DAOs, namely because it was very much backward-looking. And this is always how laws are changed. They're changed in a way that you see the problems, you try to resolve them, and then the politicians have to discuss it for a couple of years. So whenever you get a change, it's very much backward-looking. So the DLT Act did not address the challenges of DAOs. But Switzerland is very peculiar because it has a very strong and clear legislation and laws around associations and foundations, which can serve as a model for a legal entity that represents a DAO. And this is actually our focus, to find the right way how to enable all the benefits that a DAO can bring to a crypto project, give it legal clarity, enable it all the special rights that you would have as a recognized legal entity, and also limit their liabilities for the people running the DAO and the token holders who are the stakeholders.
That's a lot to unpack there. That's a lot to unpack.
You're welcome.
Well, one of the things you mentioned earlier is, as I'm going about this, I'm talking about the way in which real world assets are traded through the DAO and all that, and you gave the example of actually the reverse of how crypto assets are brought into the real world legally, and as you said, backed by U.S. Treasuries in DAI's case. I'm trying to wrap my head around on what other. I don't know.
Maybe I can give an example, actually.
Yeah, give me another good example of that.
Yeah. So let me give a good example, actually, that people can relate to. What is the challenge of a DAO who wants to actually come into the real world? Now, imagine that you're a person who one day shows up on the border of Switzerland, and you have a bag with 100 million, and you say, I'm here, I have arrived with 100 million. I cannot tell you where this money came from. It came from a lot of people. We are not really sure who are they, where they came from, but I have this 100 million here. And I would like to deploy this capital here in Switzerland, and I would want to buy real estate or invest in Swiss bonds or government bonds. And please let me do that. Now, maybe that worked 20, 30 years ago, but today that does not work, in a sense that everybody who would interact with you, they would literally ask you the question, who are you? Are you representing a legal entity? Are you representing a collective investment scheme? Can you please show me the proof of source of funds? How did you acquire them? Did you conduct KYC, AML? And then we can discuss actually how we can deploy the capital. So this is literally the equivalent example. But here now, actually, it's not the case that in the example of DAOs that we don't know who it is. Obviously, the person here, coming with suitcases with 100 millions would be a person or someone representing a DAO, a decentralized entity. But it literally, the example is equivalent, that you show up with a lot of capital, you say, I'm here, I want to deploy this into the real world, but you're kind of stuck with this hundreds of millions of dollars in the suitcases, and nobody really knows what to do with you.
You're just stuck with it.
Yes.
All right. So I've got the idea of the two ways that the money or assets will flow in and out from one virtual digital world to real world and real world to digital world. And you're setting up the structure for it. Obviously, this is going to be complicated to do it, knowing that there's so many jurisdictions of the world. Where are you in the process, and what's the next step?
Yeah. So we are still in the process of clearly defining what are the needs of the industry and the community when it comes to forming a specific DAO. So we have a very specific mission. So we have our why, if you want to talk in the context of startup or in venture language. But we want to be now very clear that we want to find a product market fit, so to speak, for SwissAssetDAO, and find the right challenges that will address as many concerns of the DAO ecosystem, and then actually build an entity with the right special rights and the limitations of liability, but that will still address the challenges of the industry. So that means, in practical terms, now we're gathering a community that I'm really thankful and grateful that you're a part of and that you're supporting us very strongly.
Oh, you're welcome.
And thank you, my pleasure. Yeah. And so gathering the community, addressing the key and gathering the key challenges, which will be followed by a light paper that SwissAssetDAO will release in the very near future. And then as a next step, we actually want to acquire funding from the key stakeholders in the crypto industry and actually build that DAO and build the legal framework behind it to support the mission and the vision of SwissAssetDAO.
So there's a lot to do. There's a lot to do indeed, but if I hear you correctly, having a DAO means that you have a large group of people and organizations that get together to jointly manage it, to operate it, and to ensure it works smoothly. And like you said, building a community is important. And getting the word out about the organization is one way to do it. Having a Telegram group is one way to do it, and YouTube videos, and every way to do it. What ultimately what is the community that you're looking for? The demographics of it, is it crypto investors? Is it people in the real world with traditional finance? Combination? Who is that core group of people that you want as your community?
Yeah. Yeah. So from a perspective of community gathering, it's very important to emphasize that actually SwissAssetDAO has internally so-called work streams that address the key challenges, in making those next steps. So for instance, one of the work stream is actually that we have is actually clarifying and classifying the key legal challenges that DAOs in the crypto industry have and that we need to address. And there we are inviting and already have actually quite some serious and sophisticated legal experts coming both from Switzerland but across the world as well, that are actually going to carry this work stream and clearly define how are the next legal steps for SwissAssetDAO. Then likewise, the next work stream that we have is also community building, which if you didn't consider yourself part of that work stream, I just say, Tom, I consider you part of that work stream. So really, getting the word out there with regards to SwissAssetDAO and its vision. And the third work stream as well is, for instance, building and progressing on the fundraising side. So this means, building a light paper and a deck that will actually clearly define it, and then do investor outreach to do fundraising and get capital in to move things forward. So our community awareness and reaching out to the community always is within the purpose of actually building further and structuring those work streams, because they're addressing the key short-term and mid challenges of SwissAssetDAO.
So built the community. Say we did get the community built very well. We have a core group of the right amount of people that are involved. It's ready to go, and you need funding. Hopefully funders listen to this show. What is the ideal type of organization that would fund a DAO? As there's angel VCs, there's grants from governments, there's a wide variety of stuff. Ultimately, what would you think would be the best way to fund this?
Yeah, so we have made actually an initial approach to friendly and close to us angel investors, VCs, and actually foundations or big chains actually. And what I have to say is actually that the biggest immediate interest actually came from big L1 protocols. So they actually see that DAOs are key stakeholders within their ecosystem, within their blockchain, and they actually are very, very interested actually to find a solution for all the projects who are building on top of their chain. So they literally have a vested interest to make this solution work. So this is actually where we had actually the most immediate positive interest. We see also some interest from VCs and angels, but what here actually is the opportunity, but also a challenge that we are very early on. I think SwissAssetDAO is, together with a few other groups that are working on solutions for DAOs, we are very early on. But this is not a challenge. For me personally, I have been pioneering the crypto industry for many, many years, and I'm taking proudly that role. Likewise, Michael Ray, my partner as well, is taking on that role. But what I really see actually that the opportunity for SwissAssetDAO to raise sizable capital and also enable the growth of the ecosystem is actually from L1s.
All right. Well, like I said, that's a lot to do. Now, one of the issues that I've seen be problematic with DAOs and any sort of organization that's governed by a community is bad ideas. Not just bad ideas, but everyone has a lot going on in their lives, and in order to properly vote and govern an organization, you got to pay attention to what's going on with it. And I'll just use the famous example of one of the most famous DAOs or distributed organizations is Tornado Cash. Regardless of the U.S. government sanctions on it, that's a whole different topic. But Tornado Cash recently suffered a governance attack in which I'll use the word hackers, but just a third party took control of the Tornado Cash protocol. With not to make things better, but to make things worse and only better for the organization that took control. In going about operating these things, how do you make sure that bad idea, that people voted for it without even reading the Tornado Cash proposal? How do you make sure? Are there some new technologies or new ways of doing this to ensure people are actually governing it and paying attention to what they're voting for?
Yeah. So to kind of give an example, actually, in the real world, when you set up an entity, you have actually the so-called statute, which basically clearly defines, what are the limits in terms of what, in this context, actually the board of directors or the shareholders can or cannot do. So, for instance, it can mean actually that the board of directors can do certain things and without the shareholder approval, or they require a 2/3 majority or half a majority, plain majority, or they even are not allowed to do certain things, And this statute is actually a very good framework for that limitation. And the way we see this actually being implemented in the crypto world is actually that we create smart contracts that actually enable you to govern the DAO, but also put the limits on what the token holders or the key stakeholders can execute or not execute. And this is basically then limited to smart contracts. Now, we are not the first one ever to thought of that idea. So very famous and well-known law firm in Switzerland called MME that actually set up the Ethereum Foundation quite a few years ago, actually, I think 3 years ago, I actually published a paper, not in terms of decentralized autonomous organizations, but I see it more in terms of associations, so decentralized autonomous association. How actually you can govern association, which is a very Swiss thing, but not key factor here, but how we can actually govern an association and do that purely through smart contracts with the limitations of what the stakeholders can do. And I think this is kind of how we see the challenges being addressed, is actually that it's really hard coded within the smart contracts. And if you want to really redo the smart contracts, then you need to have either a full 2/3 majority or even actually the full-on vote from everyone if you want to change something really critical for the DAO.
And I think you need a little box at the end that says, I'm not just clicking this because I scrolled all the way to the bottom. I actually read the proposal.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think you make a very good point here. You need strong stakeholders, right? So really people who are engaged and who really want to make this happen. And I think you have a lot of experience in the venture world. I have as well. You always have like the key shareholders in the traditional, ownership sense. They're the ones who are most informed about the company, who are the most proactive, and they are kind of like also hopefully thinking for the rest of the shareholders as well and working in their interest as well. So we hope as well that we can implement a solution like that for DAOs as well.
I got you on that. Well, Anton, I want to say thank you for coming on and talking about SwissAssetDAO and getting crypto assets into the real world and real world assets into crypto. Before our time comes to an end here, are there any other topics with this? Like you got any upcoming calls or ways for the community to get involved?
Yeah, so just to mention, so we do a community call every 2 weeks. We are proactively informing our community on social media. And very soon I will invite everyone to take a look when we're going to release our light paper, which is going to be a milestone. A draft light paper, which we will invite.
First draft.
First draft, we're going to invite feedback. And I really invite you to join our community calls, be proactive like you have been, Tom, and I really am grateful for this. And maybe to end on my side, this is the first time ever we were anywhere invited as SwissAssetDAO and able to present. So I thank you on that. And hopefully we have a follow-up, not in 10 years, but at one point in 10 years, we have a follow-up. And we play this recording in the intro of our 10-year anniversary follow-up call. When DYOR media is huge, I hope you will still remember me, and that we reflect how we performed. And I will thank you again for having us and supporting SwissAssetDAO. So really thanks a lot, Tom. I really appreciate it.
All right, Anton, thanks a lot. Thanks for coming on the show. And for those of you that want to get involved, SwissAssetDAO.org. I'll have links. For those of you watching on the replay, there'll be a bunch of links in the description down here. SwissAssetDAO.org. And of course, the call that Anton references on their website, which is behind me on my screen here, a link to that will be involved too. I suggest anyone that is serious about this and learning about it, besides just watching my show here, pay attention to Anton's social media, connect with him on LinkedIn, and of course, join the calls that are scheduled on their website. Anton, thanks a lot, and I appreciate you on my show today.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Tom. It was a pleasure. Thank you.
All right, Anton. Thanks a lot, and we'll move on with the rest of the show today. Like I said, SwissAssetDAO, thank you very much, and thanks to, as I say, my sponsor, Auditchain, for sponsoring our show. I've got Pedro got back to me, and he is in the background here, ready to give us a rumble. Pedro, I'm bringing your voice to the show here. Pedro, how's Connecticut? Are you there?
Yeah, how you doing, bud?
Good. There he is. Welcome, Pedro. I understand that you're in a different part of the country now, and on a, as I say, in a proper time zone, not one that starts at 5 a.m. or something crazy like that. And so let's let me get the right screen up here. Let's talk about the markets and how they have reacted to the XRP thing.
Yeah, it's been very favorable in relationship to the overall market in crypto. It's been really interesting to sit there and see that. I would have thought with that type of news, right, I was expecting a lot more favorable. But as Anton said, there's two-sided to this.
Yep.
So it's kind of good, but then it also isn't good because it kind of gives the SEC kind of grounds to be able to kind of bring in other things. So it's difficult. But overall, in general, I think it did bode well for crypto. We did see a big pump in a lot of stocks out here, but not as much as I had hoped to. I would have at least assumed that we were going to jump up these Bitcoin ones and hit that 100 period moving average on this weekly. So we didn't. I was kind of shocked. We actually hit the zone that I talked about over the week, and where we hit, and we did do a little bit of a sell-off. So from it versus seeing it really push through, with that type of news, I would at least assume Bitcoin would have hit that 34,000. But
yeah, I did. I thought we'd see Bitcoin pump more than that too. I mean, we saw XRP, basically doubled in price in 10 minutes. But I thought the rest of the market would do a serious pump too, and we saw only a little bit. We saw Stellar Lumens pumped like crazy because they're also in a similar business as Ripple. But everyone else just kind of went, just a little. It's okay. Yeah.
It was actually really kind of shocking to sit there and see the actual ramifications of this huge, monumental air quote case to come to an end, and nothing. Like it was like, oh, okay, great, and then all right, keep grinding. So it was actually kind of a letdown. Honestly, to tell you the truth, in relationship to what I thought we were going to see. Just being honest, right?
Right. No, I know. I mean, the whole XRP community was saying we're going to $5 and $10 as soon as it comes out in our favor, and it went from 40 cents to 80 cents.
Yeah, exactly. And when you look at the, even like Bitcoin longs and Bitcoin shorts, right? Like, look, I mean, this was the move from here to here. Like these are, it's not like, I mean, I literally was expecting something like this where we would climb up this level here to where we just saw a ton of buyers and sellers stepping in. But, almost, I hate to say it, I mean, negligible, it would almost been better if we actually saw a sell-off, because this right here this is a very meager move in buyers really stepping in and getting involved within Bitcoin. Right. But yet in relationship, right, like then you see a sell-off of shorts, but again, it's not like we see the sell-off shorts here, which was back in March. So it's negligible. With this type of news, you would assume much more so. It was almost, anticlimactic. And we can check out XRP shorts here, which is really interesting. So we're going to check out their longs. Again, I want to point out this is the daily chart, and this is what we saw. Like, boom, boom. It's not like this right here.
Wow, look at those previous big drops. Wow.
Yeah, this thing is this is just clear ground for it to push up. These are the longs for XRP. I mean, look at these days. Boom, and look here. Boop. And let's look at this as like in relationship to it overall. Like, look from here, look at these huge explosions, and we see this. So this is for me like, it's not a. I'd almost call it almost a lack of victory. Like, look, these are the shorts stepping in for XRP. Like, it went up and it went down. If we should not see shorts stepping in. Look, this is the shorts for XRP. And if you notice here, like, we're actually seeing them increase.
What is the current price of XRP here, the spot?
Right now, the spot is, and the reason why I'm bringing this up is, like, I keep bringing up this idea of, like, I think there's a little play here that's actually happening with the big banks. I'm trying to be, I mean, it should have been much bigger. But the first thing that I checked was literally their buys and their sells coming in, their shorts and longs overall. And I was just shocked. I was just like, that's it. This is it. Like,
yeah, it's at 77 cents. So it's still at that. It's still basically at the range that it pumped to yesterday.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
how's the volume been today versus yesterday?
It's actually, you saw a huge amount of sell-offs.
Right.
So here's the thing. So you see in comparison, you see a huge amount of volume, right? Like in comparison up here, we have the same top of movement back in March, right? Here's March, here's January, right? And look, it's the same amount of volume. It's not like we're seeing exorbitant amount of volume. Like this type of news, you should have seen 10, 15, 20 times the amount of volume at these levels. I mean, it's just, we should have. That's exactly what we should have seen. We should have seen something like this. Okay,
right.
This amount of volume on these days where it's like, it's crazy. And we didn't see any of that. So to me, it's just, it seems a little fishy. I don't know. I could be wrong, but such a big monumental case, and boop.
Yeah, you know what? It's funny. I guess I didn't zoom out, and I don't have enough the experience you do with looking at that chart, and I hadn't looked back far enough to see other large daily gains, and there's some big ones in there, much bigger than this.
Yes.
Or at least maybe not daily, but weekly gains and things like that, that outmatch the gains here by a lot.
A lot. And the amount of volume, the key is the amount of volume of tradable, like positive asset or positive, like you should just see an overwhelming amount of buyers stepping in. Like that would continue. You would assume, like they were saying, then, you know, institutions are going to get involved and they're going to be the one that's going to be pushing this in. And we didn't see. If anything, it literally looks like all the suckers are buying and the institutions are looking to short them. So that's honestly what it looks like. Because look, we saw an increase in the shorts today, right? Like this is right. I mean, that's what I'm trying to point out is that, I mean, these are the shorts for today. When somebody shorts, this chart goes up. When somebody literally buys this chart, this goes down. Okay. Right here, we saw it rally up, then come down, and then settle here. So you have sellers, and now we're seeing shorters step in, and now shorting the XRP project on this monumental win. This case that was supposed to cure crypto. Right.
You know, what did Coinbase's stock do? How'd they do?
It's actually, I didn't really look at your eyes.
They relisted XRP yesterday, and
that's interesting. Let's see. What's their stock? Do you know by chance? Actually, the stock. Actually exploded. So it went from 84 to 114, the peak. So it actually did really, really well.
Well, there you go. So a lot of the money went there.
Yeah, that's exactly where it went. It's actually a good point. And you can see, look at the volume of this day.
Yep.
It's almost the same amount which has started. So yeah, they're actually, the institutions are looking to get involved with not necessarily the coin itself, but the traditional side of things. And that makes sense with the current climate that's actually happening in the U.S.
Right. I took your charts briefly off screen to show a news article behind me from CoinDesk. XRP short traders logged the highest losses in 2023 after a landmark court ruling. And the article goes on to talk about how the short sellers were very pessimistic on XRP, and they absolutely got blown out yesterday. And a lot of them had trading stops and that kind of stuff, and limit orders set in to limit their losses. But when the market moves that fast, especially on crypto and especially on crypto futures exchanges, they don't guarantee your price. And they like Binance famously said, for a while we give a 5-minute window in which the time trade could settle. And 5 minutes yesterday was, it was difference between 40 and 80 cents. And so the losses yesterday were massive for the short sellers. And so it looks like they're foaming at the mouth now to get back into it and earn their money back by pushing the price down. But yesterday on the show, you did mention that your goal for XRP was about 2/3 of, I think you said the goal was like 15 cents or something like that, or
yeah. That was actually completely. It did hit a zone that I was looking at, but the zone that it hit on the actual system is not a zone that we should have blown through this zone. There's not a. I'll pull it up. I mean, we should. There's no way that we should have stopped where we stopped. Like it's just, that stopping was them establishing orders. Establishing means that they're putting in orders, and it should have blown through that area because of the makeup of that zone.
Right.
And it didn't. Like this is what kind of is like this area right here. It's not a super strong zone. That's why I actually didn't mark it. I got the zone up here in relationship to it's a GABA zone up here. But this area right here that it hit is not it's just not a strong zone. That's it. Like there's not a lot of buyers sitting right here. So, or excuse me, a lot of sellers sitting here. It's just not. When you look at the volume, look at everything, and we hit it and we sold off. So to me, that indicates that they're establishing orders of shorting and or selling. So it should have blown through, and it didn't. It didn't blow through this, and it's almost like a rope-a-dope in a sense. Like
a rope-a-dope.
And I could be wrong, I mean, some people call me a perma bear, but at the charts, they don't lie. These are the prints. It's the prints, like, and this amount of volume is nothing in comparison to something that we should have seen like this. We should have seen days like this.
So in other words, for it to really break out, we need to see XRP, not to see XRP, we need to see someone else say, okay, someone like Coinbase or someone, some other big institution say we're with a little bit more certainty on XRP's future or Ripple's future, we're going to use their protocol. We need a big customer announcement and adoption thing that for the community to really go, okay, now it's time. And let some institutional investors come in, but your conversation from 2 days ago haunts me, in how the big players want to bring the market down a lot first, before pumping it up. So like I said, it's easier to bring them. Well, it's not easier to bring. It's it would be more beneficial for them to bring the market down to 12 cents and then pump it to $1. They'd make many X's, they make 8 X's there, versus from 80 cents to $6.40. That's a lot more money coming in to do an 8X. So if they can bring the market down first, like you said, the shorts are lining back up.
And to point out, I mean, and just to jump off what you're saying is, you can sit there, you can type in to the symbol on TradingView to say XRP. Make sure you hit crypto, or you can just hit all here and just go XRP shorts. And you see right here it populates. So there are shorts that are run on other exchanges. You can sit there and watch, right? Like here you go, you have Binance. It's interesting is Binance took off their shorts against them. They used to have one here, and it no longer exists.
Right.
But you can also do longs as well, right? So XRP longs.
Interesting.
Anyways, I say this because literally for you or for other people, this shouldn't, and something's fishy.
Something's fishy.
Yeah, it just doesn't seem.
On your XRP chart, so what you're saying is that at this 77 to 80 cents level, there was no chart indicator that said, "Hey, stop here."
Yes, there was nothing.
There's no big liquidity pool that was or sell orders to sell there. What do you call it? The resistance.
There was nothing. Unless somebody else knows of a different way to look at it, there was literally nothing to stop it, except they said, we're going to stop it here. We're going to establish a short orders, and then we're going to, now this is now a zone. This is now a seller zone for me.
I can't see that. What's that top red line there, that zone?
This right here is $1.07 and $1.06 zone area here. So this is a weekly zone and a daily zone. So, it's, to me, I think it's fairly strong in relationship to the other zones. There's a lot of zones here, but this right here is a good indication of like the market came up, sold off, came back up, sold off, tried to push above this 8 here, and then we just seen this is the start of the initial push down off of that 8 period moving average.
I got you.
So that's why I sit there and I go, okay, we should see this continue down, right? So me personally, this right here area, there's no real zone here.
Yeah, according to Cointelegraph's article, labels this a whale-backed rally. So certain indicators show that XRP's price pump may not just be a short-term reaction to the positive news for Ripple. The duration of XRP's massive pump coincides with its trading volumes reaching a 10-month high. Meanwhile, the number of XRP whale transactions, wallets holding more than $100,000, climbed to their highest yesterday. I don't necessarily give that statement credence. I mean, there was a lot of wallets that were probably at $60,000 that became $100,000 wallet yesterday.
Oh, easily. If you're 50,000, you became
right. That's. I think that's a correlation is not causation example there. That was just.
Yeah. The key is I want to see buyers. All I care about is buyers, sellers, and shorters. That's it. Like. If I don't care what news saying. I've shown this video multiple times about Jim Cramer sending out false news and narratives. I do not believe that CoinDesk and even the crypto people are not a part of that system. I believe they are. I do read the news. I go through and I stay abreast of what's going on. But ultimately, what lets me know, like, the old saying, don't piss on me, or don't tell me it's raining and you're pissing on me, right?
I love that phrase. I haven't heard that in a long time, but so true.
Yeah. But that's what it's like. It's like, oh, it's it's raining. It's raining money, and the reality is, this is our volume. It's right here. Just a couple days ago, we saw this right here. A couple. At the beginning of the year, we saw this here. So it's like, this should have been huge. At least this amount. At least see it come up to how much volume is this thing? At least give me $167 million of trading volume. Dude, yesterday we literally, that is me. I apologize. Let's look at the date. Like, give me a daily volume of at least sitting at right above this day, which was in January, and this day is 56 mil. Give me at least 56 mil on this.
I can't believe it wasn't more than that. I had figured it would have been a couple $100 million would have traded when good news came out about it.
42 mil. 42 mil. Versus 56. Like, and so to me, I'm just sitting there just going like, if I was a trader or even an investor, and I sat there and only saw that amount of people come in, I'd have been like, oh, this was all hype. All right, it's time for me to sell out. Like, I would. I'm like, this isn't real. There's not real backing here.
Quickly, Twitter handle MacAttackXRP has a comment. Caution, Ripple's SEC victory triggers wave of investor scams. New wave of scams has targeted Ripple and XRP investors. Scammers have been impersonating Ripple executives and employees. The deceptive tactics have extended to creating counterfeit websites resembling the SEC, resembling Ripple, and resembling all sorts of... Oh, great. More sirens. So, in other words, watch out, people. As usual, any news, the scammers come out.
Yeah. I would almost even say it like this. So, the Maker DAO, or let's talk about Anton's project, right?
Yes.
My biggest thing is looking at that going, okay, how are they going to interact in other districts and other places in the world that, are opposed to crypto, i.e. the U.S., right?
Right.
And it's, how they're going to work through that. If somebody, let's say, a project sits there, you have a bunch of Americans who live in America, but they have a domicile of their currency, let's say, in Switzerland. Are they, how's that physically going to work, right? Because it's basically a network state versus if you take out the leadership. So it's like, are they going to give people, if they decide to, they're going to need to work through that. I was like, are you interacting with the government? Because the government's going to have to sit there if push comes to shove, right? And you're helping transition real world assets into digital assets. That's real money that the U.S. government, we already see Gensler going after that. How are they working through that? Is their government involved? Are they interacting with them? Those little small details that the devil's in the detail, right? Like, that can just crush them if Gensler just goes directly after them. And he might, it's like, you may be in Switzerland, but you're taking dollars from the U.S.
Absolutely, and the with all of these projects, the discussion is, we can, if we're a local community and operate in our local little backyard and have the support of our government, things are all great here in our local community. But that's not how digital assets work. You expose them to the entire world to buy and sell, and so you got to be cognizant of international jurisdictions, laws, regulations. There's as I said to my friends that don't speak English as a first language, the word you need to learn is quagmire. It's a quagmire, and solving that is not easy. But I've learned that that there are organizations out there trying to solve that for people and set some legal playing fields in many jurisdictions. Just see if that's possible.
Absolutely. BlackRock CEO Larry Flint talks up crypto demand from gold investments. Dude, he switched. So this is where it's just like, there's all this good news. There's a lot of good news coming out right now. And I'm always hesitant when I start to see that good news and we're not at a level where we're at a low level where there's blood in the streets. Then I literally am thinking they want to get buyers, suckers to come in and buy so that they can short the other side. I mean, I showed you the shorts coming in on XRP's chart.
Right.
Like, this is, I don't know. I'm just very, I'm wary of this right now. And I hope I'm, dude, I'll put it like this. I pray and hope I'm wrong. Is that a good way of saying it? If I'm wrong, then I hope crypto does go up, but it's just in the back of my head. It's just not. All right, let me ask you a question. Do you think we're going to go into a recession here in America?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think the economy is strong. Is strong right now. In my opinion, is that the economy is strong. Is always strong this much, and then it has a little weakness. But a recession in which we see negative growth for a little while is there's two ways to think of it. One is that the world is not going to want to buy American products, and two, the U.S. government would actually let the numbers show that we're in a recession, and I just don't think that's going to happen. They'll do whatever they can to prevent that, especially since we're coming into an election cycle. The 2024 presidential election, they can put out all the feel-good topics they want. They can talk about social issues and talk about, the smallest little details that people are near and dear to the heart. The only thing they care about in an election, when it comes right down to it, is the economy. And is their wallet doing better now or doing worse now? Or is it perceived that they're doing better now or worse now? And so I don't think we're going to see any more bad news out of any agency that Joe Biden has control over the next, we'll say over the next year.
The perceived idea is the most important thing, right? Like you can actually be living in the slums, but if you have a perceived idea that you're going to get out of that, you can change a nation's mindset about current administrations, right? Like the idea of the Coliseum gladiators. It's like that type of thing. Anyways, yeah, man, I agree. We'll see what happens. I think we will go into a recession here. I do think that it's overall, it's not. And when that happens, okay, I think you're going to have a sell-off of everything. People are going to run away from crypto as well because they're going to look for something. I think they're going to hold on to their cash. And then from there, you'll see a big investment coming in, right? So it's going to be really interesting. I think there will be a recession. I don't think you just can't. There's too many websites out there that actually look at the road data, that actually go through and calculate from road data. I don't know.
Right.
Businesses are laying off employees all over the place here in America. They're not calculating real jobs, right? Part of the employment areas, they're not calculating real statistical numbers in relationship to the CPI. And that to me is just, I don't think people are really that dumb. I don't know. People
You have lots of faith that people are smarter than they actually are. That's gotten a lot of people in trouble before, in politics and in investing.
I think you're right. I totally. I'm sitting there screaming, "This is a rope-a-dope. This is a rope-a-dope," and people are like, "Fine, take my money." Anyways.
All right, Pedro. I've had a long show today, and I've got to get her going here and get going with the rest of the day thank you for joining us and giving us your opinion about the market and talking about XRP. And of course, I think one of the most important topics you brought up was regarding my discussion with Anton in real world asset trading is jurisdictional issues and how you solve, not just how you solve it, but that everybody agrees that that's a problem around the world. But hopefully projects will come about, projects that we just heard from today, and projects that we'll hear from in the future, if you know what I mean. So
Absolutely.
and so like I always say when I get to the end of these shows, we had a good time. We had a good discussion today. For those of you, few of you watching live now towards the end of this, if you could hit the likes and shares, we'd appreciate it. If you post about it, if you like what Pedro was talking about or like what Anton was talking about, you can always hit the share button at the time frame in which you are watching, so people don't have to watch the entire thing to get to it. You can share right at the moment that you want to. Whoops, that's not the right one. That's the right one. And have for a good DYOR credits. There we go. Oh, I always try to make the end of these shows smooth. But like I said, Pedro, we had a good show. Some good information today. And next week, this is the last show of the week. I'll not be on Saturday or Sunday. Next week, we'll have a short week for you. I'll probably only be on the air twice, probably Monday and Wednesday. And I believe we're going to have a guest that talks about NFTs and bringing the real world into NFTs and having revenue streams from music rights or creators' rights flow with the NFT. And I don't fully understand it, so I'm going to have to do some, as they say, do some research on that. I believe his name is Jeremy Williams from his Aspen group of products. I can't remember the name of the company, but we'll get on that. That'll be next week. And I'm sure at one point or another, we'll also, Pedro, have you on talking about with the craziness in the market for the day.
All right, buddy. It was a pleasure. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much. And we'll see you again next week here on DYOR Media and DYOR Live. Thanks to Auditchain. My name is Tom, otherwise known as Striking, here in the digital media world. Have a great day.